So to be completely honest with you, up until a few weeks ago, I never saw the point of this, of folding phones. I was always happy being a Pixel guy and an iPhone guy, but after testing out the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, I think Samsung is onto something. For our non-believers in foldables, I think the Z Flip 5 is good enough to change your mind, but there still does exist trade-offs you need to understand before you jump in to see whether or not it's worth it for you. And for those of you who have owned previous versions of the Z Flip series, this is one heck of an upgrade worth considering. So for the people who don't get it, why should you care about a phone that folds? For one, the Z Flip 5 collapses into a perfect sandwich with no noticeable gap, making this literally the most pocketable phone out there. I honestly didn't think that it would make much of a difference in my life, but it actually has. Taking up half the amount of space in my pocket makes carrying a phone much less of a nuisance. And selfishly, as a guy who carries an iPhone and an Android everywhere that I go, it's much easier having one that folds so small. And I just want to say, it is super satisfying to just open and close this phone. It's like literally a fidgeting device in itself, and thankfully it is rated for over 200,000 folds before you see any kind of degradation to the screen, so it'll comfortably last many years if you had any type of concern about durability. While it's collapsed, we get a brand new 3.4-inch cover screen known as the Flex window. It's fully customizable to your heart's content. You can add different graphical and informative clocks, your own customized images and windows, as well as stylish frames to really make it your own. I just love this little customization a lot. It's super fun to tinker with, and it adds a sense of style and personal expression to your phone that I haven't personally quite seen before. There's also this ability to access widgets directly from the cover screen, which gives you a ton of functionality without having to open up your phone. You get access to a media player for any content that's playing in the background. You can swipe to see the weather, stock market data, and even the ability to directly call people without ever needing to open the phone. You can even pinch the screen to get a view of all the widgets that you have saved, which is pretty convenient. You also do have the ability to access full-on applications from the little window, including messages to respond to text, and even YouTube videos for those of you who want to torture yourselves to watch something on such a tiny display. By far though, the biggest thing that I love about the cover screen is that it can be used as a way to view yourself when taking pictures with the main camera, but we'll dive into that soon when I discuss more about the cameras and its specs. And on another note, for somebody who loves to use their phone to pay for things, being able to use Samsung Pay while the phone is actually collapsed and closed is awesome. Like, thank you for adding that feature. Overall, I do think the Flex window is incredible because it adds utility to the phone without the need to actually open it. And I don't say that lightly, by the way. While this is satisfying to open and close on its own and just to fiddle with it like a fidgeting device, it does take two hands to open it. Like if I try to do it with one hand, you do sort of need to do a little bit of hand gymnastics to get it open. And so that alone can be bothersome depending on who you are. And I should clarify that I don't think the Flex window is a gimmick per se. I actually have found legitimate utility with it, but I also want to sort of reset expectations for anybody that is watching this video. This window, to me at least, wasn't meant to be a way to full-time use your phone and keep it totally closed all the time. I mean, you totally could do that technically, but I think many of you will get quickly disappointed if you went down that road. I think its real value is just a little bit more added convenience to quickly check important information at a glance and take care of any quick actions that you want to do without the need to open up your phone, which again, I've stated can feel really cumbersome at times depending on who you are. And in this context, I think the Flex window is a winner. Throughout my time with the Z Flip 5, there were really only two things about the design that I wasn't really a fan of. Number one is that it is a fingerprint magnet, so you'll have to constantly clean it if you like to keep your phone looking clean all the time. But it's also incredibly slippery for my taste. I have legitimate anxiety that I'm gonna have this thing slip out of my hand and it's just gonna fall. So if you are prone to breaking your phone, you should definitely get a case to protect the phone. I've already dropped this phone actually face first multiple times, and to my sheer good luck, I don't know how I survived this, I have yet to break the screen. So Definitely the Z Flip 5 does pass that durability check. Okay, so the next thing I want to discuss is how the Z Flip 5 feels in the real world when you use it just as a regular smartphone once you've opened it up from the sandwich. There's a lot that feels familiar in a really good way, and there are things that feel different for the better, but there's also some things that are for the worse. So let's jump in. For starters, what feels familiar is how smooth and snappy the Z Flip 5 is. It's powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, which is the exact same processor found in the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, so there is literally no shortage of performance on this phone. You can do just about anything on here without any fear of performance hiccups. The display on the Z Flip 5 is also stunning, which should be no surprise. It features Samsung's classic 120Hz AMOLED display, which sits among some of the best displays you can get on a smartphone right now. Just the other day, I was using Surfshark VPN to change my country from Canada to US to enjoy content that wasn't available here, and the colors, sharpness, everything about what I was watching just pops on this phone in a really good way. That's one of the many things that Surfshark VPN can do, who were kind enough to actually partner with me on this portion of the video. Surfshark is a VPN that keeps you safe and private by covering up the things that you do online. Any company trying to snoop you won't be able to see what you're doing or where you're doing it from, so you get true anonymity with your data on the internet. So for example, I can get better prices for websites that use cookies to try to make things more expensive for me, or if I'm in an area with no reception but public Wi-Fi, having a VPN keeps you safe and encrypts your data on their networks. You get features like these and so much more for only $249 a month, which by the way, can be split between as many friends and family as you'd like. So for example, let's say we split this amongst 4 people, that's 62 cents each per month. Like, that's a really good deal. Click the link in the description down below and use code TerranRule to get an exclusive deal of 3 months for free. And what's awesome is that it's fully refundable with a 30-day money-back guarantee if you guys don't end up liking the service. Thank you, Surfshark VPN, for partnering with me on this portion of the video. Okay, let's talk about the software. One UI has come a long way from the days that I personally used to use Samsung, which was back in like the S7 and S6 days before I permanently switched over to using stock Android Google Pixel phones. It feels way less bloated this time around. It's clean and minimal, and I can honestly say that I don't miss pure stock Android on a Samsung phone. So if you're a Pixel owner out there like I was, there's no need to worry about adjusting software-wise. In terms of battery life, it also feels familiar in that I don't have any battery anxiety with this phone, which is incredible given that it doesn't even have a large battery inside. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip is more efficient this time around, and it really shows. I'm able to get a full days of use out of this phone without having to worry about it. And as for the things that feel different, for starters, the Z Flip 5 is taller and narrower than a standard smartphone. I wasn't sure how I would feel about this, but I've really grown to like this lankier form factor. It really makes using the phone one-handed a lot easier, which is hard to say about other phones out there right now. But on the flip side, no pun intended, because the phone is taller, it has a less traditional aspect ratio that is not one-to-one compatible with all the apps out there. Instagram, for example, has borders on all the stories and reels you view on the phone, and the same goes for anything that you're watching on TikTok on this device. These kinds of things aren't a big deal to me personally, but it's worth pointing out if that's something that's going to bother you. On another note, something that is different and fun with how you can use this phone is in a semi-folded position. With certain apps that it's compatible with, you can semi-fold the phone and it will allow you to press a bottom button on the left corner and turn half of the display into a trackpad with controls, and the other half is going to show the actual content. You get a full-on mouse cursor and everything, and it's really neat, to be honest, but after a few weeks, I couldn't really find much use in doing this other than, watching YouTube videos. Being able to have a video playing on a table easily with the playback controls on the bottom is actually an incredibly useful tool, especially if you just like to watch videos as you're eating breakfast like me. Typically, if I wanted to do that on my iPhone, I would have to lay it flat because I didn't really have no other way to do that. And another thing that's different about this phone is that there's just a joy of discovery with using a folding device that I've never really had with the smartphone for a really long time. Every week that goes by, I find a new and fun way to make use of this phone because of the fact that it folds, as well as the outer screen with the widgets available to me. For example, I was in the gym the other day and I had this aha moment that I could finally record my lifts in form more easily because the phone actually folds and I can use the outer screen to position it easier and also have it be its own little tripod in the corner. And when I'm timing my rest in between sets in the gym, it was really fun and easy just to swipe to the timer on the actual cover screen and hit start until I roughly hit 90 seconds before I did my next set. Is these kinds of quality of life improvements and just fun discoveries over time that make this phone just a joy to use. Okay, now let's talk about the cameras. You get a selfie camera on the front and a wide and ultra wide angle lens on the back. These are not quite on the level of what you'd find on the Samsung S23 and other flagship phones, but they still did really impress me. As you can see from each photo, without any editing, it has the classic saturated Samsung look that you'd expect. And quite honestly, some of these shots were stunning and really caught me by surprise for a phone that doesn't rep the highest top-end specs for a camera. Also, thanks to the flex window that we discussed earlier in the review, it can be used as a preview screen for photos. So you can fold this phone into a tripod position and essentially take your own personal or group photos without needing a stranger to take it for you. It's really fun to use, to be honest. I think a lot of you are actually gonna really like this specific feature. Even just the ability to take higher quality selfies now off the main camera, because you can now see yourself and just completely forego using the front-facing camera, is a big win for anyone who loves to take selfies off of their phone. And yes, if you were wondering, this does also work with the phone closed, so you can capture moments even faster without needing to actually open up the phone. In terms of night photography, I'll lay out some photos on display here for you guys to be the judge of. I don't think the Z Flip 5 does a bad job here. It does a decent job bringing the images to life, and I don't think many of you will be disappointed with the camera quality here again. It's not quite what you'd get on a Samsung S23 or a Google Pixel 7 Pro, but it's close, and I think that's good enough for most people. Video on the smartphone is super sharp and clean as well. I was really happy with the results that I was getting. I've always felt and had this sentiment that if you didn't own an iPhone, but you loved to take smartphone video, Samsung was the king of that in the Android world, and I think it continues to show. You have lots of options to capture the exact video you are looking for, including the ability to use the flex window as your own vlog monitor. Like, that is incredible, and it makes this phone really valuable for any content creators out there. So that's the cameras, but let's talk about another point that I wanted to bring up that I didn't really have a spot in this review. I personally have the model with 512 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM, so I've been using this phone to my heart's content, just filling it with games and apps without any worry of filling up the storage. I bring this up because Samsung has incredible pre-order deals and savings for the new Z Flip 5, offering more storage at no extra cost, and even giving out incredible trade-in deals and big discounts on other accessories that you can get with your phone. The Z Flip 5 is a fantastic phone. It is fully realizing a vision for a folding form factor that I think has a place in our world for anyone who wants something that's pocketable, fun, and different from the other stuff that's out there. No, it's not a perfect phone, but with all the positives that this thing has, I hardly pout about its shortcomings. Like, this entire review, I did not talk about the crease on this display, and that was on purpose because from my experience, you just don't notice the crease at all. I honestly sometimes forget that it's even there. Overall, I 10 out of 10 recommend this phone to anyone who is interested. It is simply a fun device, and I don't think any of you are going to be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching. Comment hashtag I made it if you finished the video. You are goated, and I'll heart all the comments who made it to the very end and watch my latest video right here, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next video. Peace.